Just first of all, tell us about your new assistant. What was it that appealed to you about Craig Lingard?
Um, I think a big one for me was I didn't want to go down the route of getting somebody I knew or I'd worked with before or was a friend with or a colleague. I wanted someone completely fresh, someone who I felt would come in and, speak some truth and be honest and have a fresh, complete set of eyes to, what we need to improve on, what we need to do better, development needs for myself. And Craig's somebody who's got vast experience in the game, being a head coach himself for a number of years, obviously in the championship, and is someone I think I'll be able to lean on, and tap into obviously his knowledge of being a head coach, but also tap into his knowledge of the championship in terms of players, etc. And I've done a little bit of homework in terms of asking some questions about him as a person, and the overwhelming thing was he's a champion bloke, very very honest, hard working, and those are the qualities that you want in an assistant. And I'm looking forward to obviously getting to know him a little bit more personally, and getting to know him a little bit more from a rugby point of view. So he's come with a really really good reference from some people in the game who I trust, and also after the announcement, some guys who I didn't know had worked with Craig, were quick to compliment him and say, what a good addition it'll be to obviously Castleford Tigers. So, really, really happy with obviously the appointment of Craig.
He's only had 2 sessions so far. Has he spoken any truths yet, or is he keeping them to himself at the moment?
No, he's obviously not going to rock the boat so much to start with. I think the fact that he comes on the training field in his bare feet has obviously raised some eyebrows, and some of the guys are, all going to muck together and try and get him a pair of trainers or get him a pair of flip flops. But no, he's a very, very, very smart man. And he's someone who I think will be good for the group, and he'll be good for obviously the coaching staff, and he'll be good for me personally. So, he's not come in and rock the boat too much. I'm sure he's finding his feet, so to speak, and just observing things, and I'm sure he'll start to make his mark on the group and start to make his mark on one or two individuals, obviously, in the coming weeks.
At the same time, Danny Wilson's been appointed as director of rugby as well. How significant do you see that appointment in particular?
Yeah, I think it's a big appointment. Danny's very smart operator, an academic, really, really good at, putting systems and structures in place. He stepped out of his comfort zone, from the youth, and, has ventured into obviously that first team environment last year, as an assistant coach, and also as a, player pathways coordinator last year. And, he had a big impact there and helped obviously the club get their academy license. He's somebody who I think will be a good fit to sit, in that position between, management and performance. He'll be able to have an eye on performance, but also have an eye on, club long-term strategy. And I think that's something which is really important, because what's been evident for myself in the 4 weeks I've been head coach, you are fully invested in that first team, and you don't really get a moment to just sit back, take stock, and have a good think. And having somebody like Danny, who I've worked with for a number of years, I trust, and he understands what I'm about and what this club needs. I think he'll be a very, very good appointment for us.
On the field, Andy, you're seeing the same old frailties, aren't you, that are arising week after week? How do you stop them from happening? It must be an incredibly frustrating position at the moment for you.
Yeah, it is incredibly frustrating. We had a fairly open, honest review after the league game on the Saturday morning, and just spoke about, unfortunately, as a team, we're the second worst in the competition. The table doesn't lie. There's only one team who's, got a worse record than us, and that's Wakefield. A big thing is the honesty within the group. I asked them some questions and said, how many of you are playing, to a level which is acceptable for us? And, nobody could put their hands up. And, that's, very, very disappointing when you consider, we've played every team in the competition now, and nobody feels as though they're playing to the level that they should be and what they're capable of. So, we spoke about the reasons why, and there was some frustrations in terms of making the same errors, making the same mistakes. And what we've got to do is we've got to learn very, very quickly that this game is all about pressure. It's about being able to build pressure. It's about being able to stay in pressure, and it's about being able to deal with pressure when you're under it. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that. And we've got to try and simulate a little bit more high pressure situations in practice. That's what we've done this week in terms of the intensity that we've trained at, in terms of the drills that we've put in place, and fatiguing them before they go into the session, to try and create that pressure. And we've had a good week practice, and hopefully we'll see the benefits of that come Friday night against Catalan.
In terms of the squad, I think Sui's come in and Kenny Edwards has dropped out. Is Kenny an injury or is it a selection issue?
No, Kenny's got some illness. Went down with diarrhea and vomiting, so couldn't train Monday. Didn't train Tuesday, and was still suffering the symptoms of that on Wednesday. He's come back in today. He's 4K underweight, and we can't have any passengers against a Catalan team, and certainly can't carry Kenny because it's one of his former teams, and they tend to go after him anyway. So we need obviously players who are fully fit, and with plenty of energy about them. So we've made the decision to obviously stand Kenny down this week, with a view to come into consideration for next week's game.
What's your gauge on the Dragons at the moment then?
They're a very, very well balanced team, very powerful, got great experience, got a huge amount of respect for obviously Steve McNamara as a coach and a person. He's done a great job with Catalan over a number of years now. But watch the game against St Helens, and it was full-blooded. Both teams really went after each other, and the scoreboard at the beginning of the game probably didn't reflect the dominance that Catalan had in it. Saints managed to score a couple of tries against probably the flow and run of play. But Catalan, do what they do very, very well. They had some real intent and some line speed about them, and they got off to St Helens, and then they scored some very, very good tries. They're a dangerous team, and we'll need to be good to get a result against them on Friday.
I think back to that Golden Point drop goal victory from Danny Richardson last June, I think it was. Anything like that will be a huge step forward for Cass, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the performance is very, very important for us in terms of our confidence, making sure that we get a good performance. But nothing gives you confidence than winning. So, if we can get a win, that'll be massive for our group. We desperately need a win. We're disappointed with the second half performance against Lee. We've put that to bed. We've learned our lessons from it, and hopefully we'll see a much improved performance on Friday night.
Just while I mentioned Danny Richardson, the hero from last year, is he still is he progressing as you like at the moment, and is there still absolutely no chance of him playing this year?
No, it's unlikely he'll play this year, but he is progressing very, very well. Very professional and diligent in his rehabilitation. So he's looking strong. He's back, doing the rehab and working with the physios on a daily basis and working extremely hard. But it'll be good to obviously get him back in and amongst it, hopefully, next season, definitely in the pre-season.
And lastly, from me, the out of contract list has shown that Callum McClelland hasn't been offered terms beyond this season. He's obviously been hugely unlucky with injuries. Can you just quantify how disappointing, how big a shame it's been that Cass have never really seen anything of him?
Yeah, it's really disappointing, and really disappointing for Callum as a lad. He signed whilst he was injured. He picked up the injury playing against Wakefield, and obviously the club, honoured their agreement and took him on in hope that be able to get back to playing at a level that he was capable of. That unfortunately in the couple of years that he's been with us hasn't materialised. He's still confident he can get back on the training field, but he's in rehab and he's running at the minute, and using this time to get himself fully right, fully fit, with a view to potentially getting something elsewhere. It's a real shame for Castleford. It's a real shame for us, but unfortunately that's the nature of our sport. Some things don't work out, and unfortunately it hasn't quite worked out for Callum.
Just on Callum McClelland, is there any chance of him playing this season for you, do you think?
No, it's unlikely. It's unlikely. He's starting a process in terms of his rehabilitation again. He's just going to try and use his time between now and the end of the season to get himself fully right with a view to, dusting off the boots and hopefully, get back playing and get himself obviously fixed up at a club for next season.
What is the situation with his injury? Is it still the kneecap that's bothering him? Because I know he said a while ago that he was getting closer to making a comeback. Has he had a relapse?
No, it's there's other stuff in and around. Obviously, that he's tweaked a little bit of a quad, which is obviously an attachment to obviously the patella tendon. Every time he gets to that point where you're thinking, right, we could just crank it up a little bit. Unfortunately, he's not able to tolerate the load, and he's had a couple of setbacks. For no fault of his own, it's just very very tough injury to get over. And when one thing breaks, it weakens something elsewhere. So Callum's obviously back on the road to recovery, back running and getting some tempo runs into him. But it's a slow process, and we just want to support him and make sure that the club does the right thing by him in terms of giving him everything he needs to get himself back to a level where he feels he can play.
You must really feel for him. He's had such a rotten.
Yeah, it's been awful, and for poor old Callum, he spent a fair bit of time obviously on his own and in injury, and don't feel as though he's been able to contribute to obviously Castleford in the last couple of years. And I know he was extremely passionate about making a better contribution than he has done. But these things happen in sport. It's the sad nature of professional sport. Some people suffer a bit of bad luck, and obviously Callum's had a fairly bad couple of years. But in terms of his resilience and his character, he's ripped into obviously his rehab, and hopefully he'll get back on the field and being able to perform soon.
And just on the contract list, you've got a fair bit of work to do, a few discussions to have by the looks of it. I think it's 12 that are not yet determined, and then obviously players who've been offered a contract. We don't know whether they've signed or not yet. How do you see things progressing over the next few months?
It's going to be a challenge. I knew that challenge, when I applied for the job. We knew that there was a lot of players off contract, and there's going to be some tough decisions that are going to have to be made. The players have got to take responsibility and make sure that they hold themselves accountable, because at the minute there won't be many of them who you'd be considering signing. That's because of the nature of how we've performed, where we sat on the table. If they get the performances in order, it gives everybody a better opportunity of, considering re-signing them either for Castleford or, another team coming in and signing them. So performance is king, and we need the players, to start performing better. And if performances get better and we start getting some wins, contract situations, etc., will start to drop into place.
Yeah, we spoke about recruitment briefly last week, and since then there's been talk that Owen Trout and Ethan Ryan have decided to go elsewhere. Is your league position and that bit of uncertainty making recruitment more difficult?
Yeah, it's making it more difficult. We was never in for Ethan Ryan, so wherever that story come from, the way off the mark is not someone I've considered. Ethan, I think everybody on the list, is someone you look at, but Ethan's not someone that we've pursued. So, that one was, a little bit off the mark. With regards to Owen Trout, yeah, someone that we've looked at, someone that, we'd definitely consider. But it looks like obviously he's made a decision to go elsewhere. There's a project here, there's a real build. And I think what's important for us is make sure that we focus on this season, get some more wins on the board. And try and obviously do the right thing with regards to recruitment and who we really, really want for next season. There may be some guys who are off contract with us or, earn an opportunity to stay here. And then, there's some guys who are off contract elsewhere who we feel may be a good fit for us, moving forward. So, yeah, it's a challenging time, but it's a period which, I'm quite excited about because it's all new to me. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, to give yourselves the best chance of getting the squad you want for 2024 and beyond, do you need quick wins now?
Yeah, you do. Definitely. We need to get ourselves away from, that bottom spot. I think we need to start picking up some wins, and it is a long old season. We haven't started the best. We're aware of that. but it's a long haul season. You know, if someone told me that, you know, you'll have played Lee and you'll have played Salford and you'll have played Hull KR and all those 4 teams would be sat in your top 5 at this time of the year. At the beginning of the season, I probably said, nah, that won't be the case, but that is the case, you know, and that's credit to those 3 teams. You know, they've been able to get some momentum, get some wins, get some performance and get some results. And on the flip side of it, there's some teams who were, you know, a little bit further down the table, or you wouldn't be expected to be there after, you know, 11 rounds. You know, St Helens' record, you know, the fact that they've lost 5, you know, out of the 10 games they've played, you know, Huddersfield and then obviously Hull FC, you wouldn't have expected those teams, you know, to be where they are on the table. So it is a long old season. You know, there's still plenty of games to play. There's still plenty of, you know, twists and turns in the season. What we want to do is want to try and get some wins quickly because it'll help with the recruitment decisions that you want to make moving forward.
Yeah, given the way you've been travelling, do you really have to make the most of these home games?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think our home form has been good. You know, we've had some good performances. You know, we took Hull KR very, very close. The last time was at home. Probably did enough to win that game, but that's just the story of where we're at. You know, the teams who are full of confidence and momentum found a way to win. The teams like ourselves who were struggling at the wrong end of the table, they found a way to lose. And, you know, that was evident on that night. You know, the fact we go in front and then can't deal with kick-off and then concede straight after, you know, that kick-off we don't deal with, you know, is sort of like a bit of a story of our season. But, you know, we're confident in what we've got within the group. You know, we know that we haven't been at our best. We know that our best performances, you know, around the corner. We just need to hope that we've done enough work this week that things fall into place and we click on Friday night.
You spoke about it being a project. Do you think it's more difficult than what you anticipated when you took over?
Yeah, it probably is. Probably is a little bit more difficult than I anticipated when I took over. You know, there's some real challenges for us as a club, and challenges for us obviously moving forward. But I'm excited by it because, you know, it's a real opportunity for us to have a rebuild and a restart and get Castleford back to where we want to be, which is, you know, challenging, you know, at the right end of the table and, you know, going deep into, you know, the season and deep into the Challenge Cup competitions. So, you know, it's a big job, but I'm excited by it. And, you know, the addition of Craig onto the staff and, you know, we've got obviously Scott Morello's coming. There's some good experience there and hopefully we'll see some positive change over the next couple of weeks.
And of course, a lot of eyes are on recruitment for next season, but is there any scope to bring anyone else in this year as well?
Yeah, you're always looking. You know, we brought in a couple of guys a couple of weeks back. They're projects for us. Obviously, Will Tate, you know, he's a project for us. He's only 20-year-old. You know, some criticism has been labelled, obviously, at myself and him with regards to they don't help us now. But, you know, we've got to make sure that we can strike and also have an eye on, you know, the future. And Will's certainly one for the future. He's working hard, obviously, on the training field and building combinations. You know, he'll be a good player for Castleford Tigers, hopefully in the very near future, but he'll certainly be a good player for us, you know, in next season, you know, the season after that. So, you know, he's going to be a long-term, you know, project for us from a signing point of view. And then Lewis Johnson, you know, is coming. You know, he's had some, you know, good reps on the training field. You know, he's going to play at the weekend. And I'm sure he's going to showcase, you know, what he's about, not only for us, but his, you know, parent club at Hull KR. And I'm looking forward to obviously seeing what they can do.